Hey guys, it's Elizabeth from ElizabethMadeThis.com, and you have made it to my Handmade Holidays series. So I'm kicking off today with day one, and we're going to talk about pajama pants. But before I get to that, let me explain my sweater. So when I was thinking about doing this series, I was thinking I need to wear something festive, And I don't have any ugly sweaters, so I grabbed instead this wall hanging that my great-great-aunt Libby made, and we've had it my whole life, really. And I found it at my parents' house a while back, and I thought, I need to take this home and I need to put it up because it's wonderful. It's all hand sequined, and I think it's beautiful. So anyway, it's my swingy little sweater that I put on top of my toaster sweater. But anyway, this whole series, I'm going to be bringing you lots of quick and easy projects that you can be doing for gifts for people during this holiday season, or there's some maybe wish list things that I've got going on later on for us sewists, and also just a couple of little things for your house too that you might want to be doing. And yeah, let's talk about pajama pants. So I have been making pajamas for my boys. Flannel and fleece this time of year are always on really great sales, so I picked up some, and I have been making pajamas for my boys. And the great thing about pajama pants, especially if you don't want to go full and make the whole pajama sets, pajama pants are super simple to make, and I don't think there's a single pattern company, except for maybe a few indie pattern companies, that don't have some sort of pajama pant pattern. They're really simple to do. They're easy enough for your very first garment, and yeah, you can find them anywhere. The particular pattern that I'm using for my pajamas is from the December 2010 edition of Burra Style, but again, I mean, you can find simplicity. You can find just anybody has pajama pant patterns, so just pick one up, and they're all kind of the same. The only thing about them is that they often put the elastic in a particular way that I am not a fan of. So I'm going to show you a quick and easy way that you can put in the elastic, and it's going to save you time, it's going to be a lot faster, and it's going to look a lot nicer in the end. So let's head on down to the sewing room and we'll check out how to do that really quick. Okay, so the majority of pajama pants patterns that are out there have you take the top of your pajama pant and then fold over, usually by an inch or however wide your elastic is, and then you finish that edge, or you fold it under, and then you stitch all the way around the top to make a casing for the elastic, and then you leave a little hole for the elastic, and then you take your elastic and then you thread it through. There's a couple of problems with doing it this way. Number one, the elastic is really hard to get through there. You've got to use like a safety pin or some kind of other gadget, and it's not really easy work. The other thing is that a lot of times the elastic will twist inside of the casing, which can be really uncomfortable to wear, and also it can kind of gather a lot in some places and not at all in others, so it just doesn't look very well. So the way that I'm going to show you is different, and it's a lot easier, and I think it's a lot faster too. The first thing that we have to do is, I should say, you can do this, what I'm going to show you, with your regular sewing machine, or you can use a serger. You're going to need the sewing machine for it either way, but you can also use the serger. If you don't have a serger, you can do everything I'm telling you to do with the serger with using your regular sewing machine with a zigzag stitch. It will do just the same kind of job. So when I say serger, just substitute zigzag stitch and that works fine. The first thing that we need to do is grab the elastic, and we're going to sew this into a circle, but we don't want to overlap it because it's gonna, sew it this way because it's going to create a lot of bulk in the seam, and we don't want that. We want it to sit nice and flat. So I'm just going to grab a scrap of fabric, and I'm going to put the ends right next to each other, and I'm going to use a wide zigzag stitch, width of 7 and a length of 1.5 to join them together. If I don't have the scrap behind this, it will get sucked down into the machine. Okay, so I'm just going to join these really quick together. And I just go one time down and one time back using my back stitch. And that's all we need to do to join it. And now the elastic is nice and flush. We don't need the rest of this fabric. We're just gonna cut behind it. It's literally only there to keep it from getting sucked down into the machine. Okay, and now we are ready to go to the serger. Okay, so now I've got my elastic, it's all in a circle, and I have also taken some pins and I've quartered it. So I folded my seam there in half and I marked the other side with a pin, and then I folded the seam to the other pin and marked it with 2 other pins. Okay, I don't have to do the same thing with the pants because it's already quartered. See, side seam, center front, center back, boom. So now I'm gonna take my quarter markers and I am going to pin them to the wrong side of my pants, just in those spots. I'm not gonna pin it all the way to the top because we wanna leave it about 1/8 of an inch from the top. The edge of the elastic is a little bit, people are moving chairs upstairs. The edge of the elastic is a little pokey, so when we go to fold this over, we want to have a little bit of gap between the bottom of the elastic and the fabric. That way it'll keep it all the way inside of the casing, and it's not gonna hurt any sensitive skin that you might have in your family. Okay, so just pinning about 1/8 of an inch from the top to that quarter marking. Now I'm going to take my serger and I am going to sew all the way around the top of this, keeping my elastic, again, about 1/8 of an inch away from the top of the fabric. And I am going to stretch the fabric between those quarter markings. It's not going to stretch a lot, but it's enough, and that's what's going to create the gathers in the elastic. So it's really important when you do this that you have one hand in front and one hand in back, and then you're just stretching the elastic and not the fabric. And you can just start wherever you want to. So the serger is going to anchor this elastic inside of it, and the stitch is wide enough that even though we're not leaving the elastic flush at the top, it's still going to get anchored into it. Okay, so hand in front, hand in back, stretch just the elastic and go around. Don't go over your pins. Okay, I'm gonna go and keep stretching to my next spot. Almost to the end here, so you can see how fast this goes. This is much faster than threading, sewing the casing, threading it through, and then having to do this. Okay, when you get to the end, just go back over your first few stitches and then cut it off. Okay, we have one last step to do at the sewing machine. So we're gonna fold it over. You can see the elastic is gathered inside of there, and now we're gonna just top stitch around from the right side. Okay, so you can see it's rather gathered here. So we have to, again, put a hand in front, hand behind when I go to stitch it. I'm gonna go back to a straight stitch. If I was using if I was using a knit fabric, then I would go ahead and keep going with the zigzag. But this is woven, so it's totally okay to go and do the straight stitch. If you try to top stitch on a knit fabric with a straight stitch, under stress, when you pull on that, it's gonna pop. But I don't have to worry about that because flannel is woven. And I'm gonna go like a 2.8 stitch length. And I am just gonna feel where the end of my elastic is. I know I'm using a 1-inch wide elastic, so I know where that is on my machine. I have 2 funny little dots. You can always use a piece of tape to mark where your 1-inch mark is if you don't have one on your machine. And then just to keep the elastic even, I'm just stretching the elastic inside of my casing as I'm going around. And that is what's going to keep our gathers nice and even. I should have put my pocket down lower. That's okay. Sometimes you eyeball things poorly. The pants pattern didn't have pockets, but my son wanted them. Okay, coming around to the end. When you get to the end, again, just go back over the first few stitches that you did. And that's all there is to it. This is the easiest way to do elastic in a casing. Ta-da! If this was a helpful video for you, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. There's tons more Handmade Holidays from Elizabeth Made that's coming your way in the next few days. So check it out. And thank you for watching and happy sewing.